Mike Kim, my man, my new best friend.
All right, man.
He just can't. What's up, brother? Wow, Mike, he's bringing the pain.
Bring the pain. All right. How are all of you today? Come on. Give somebody next to you a high five. Tell them, let's get it on. Come on. I want to hear you. Let's get it on. All right. Today we are going to talk about how you can build. All right. Let's get the drinks out. Bring out the gin for me and Ducker. All right. All right. No gin. Okay. All right. So this afternoon we're going to talk about how to write, market, and persuade in a voice that is unmistakably you. And here's the thing. When we influence language, we influence thinking. Words have caused people to fly different airlines, shop at different stores, buy different clothes. And all of us who are in this room know the importance of words. How many of you work in a personal brand business where you're sharing expertise around the room? How many of you are sharing content online like Chris talked about this morning, right? How many of you guys realize the one thing you do every day in your business is actually write words, right? Whether it's an email, a tweet, anything, a video, whatever it is. And we have to understand that when we influence language, we influence thinking. Now, for me as a brand strategist, I look at brands through this lens. There's a brand identity, but there are three identities to every brand. There are three sub-identities. And each of these three things are like legs on a tripod. You miss one, it falls over. You miss one, it feels misaligned. Now, I'm an alliteration guy, you're going to quickly find, and it helps me actually remember things a little bit easier. And so these are in no particular order, but I put verbal first because that's what we're going to be talking about today. There is a verbal identity to your brand. It's the way that you write, and it's the way that you talk. Then there is, of course, a visual identity. Okay? And this is what we're most familiar with, what a brand looks like, what colors you use. Quick, what's the color of alter ego? You know, right? So we're familiar when it comes to branding with the visual identity of the brand. And of course, we understand there's a value identity to the brand. That is your positioning. And your positioning is simply where you sit relative to your competition. I use the example a lot. Are you Louis Vuitton or are you Walmart? Both companies make a lot of money, but they make it in very different ways. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Right? How many we got in here with Louis Vuitton people? All right? Like brand-wise, not you're wearing it. Well, maybe those of you who do wear it, you wear it proudly. I noticed that. Okay? All right? So the verbal identity of a brand is, of course, determined by copywriting. 90% of the problems that I see when a business is breaking down in their marketing, it's really a copy problem. It's what they're saying. It's how they're saying it. Now, if you were to ask me, well, Mike, you know, there are a lot of copywriters out there. There are a lot of people that teach marketing online. What makes you different? And Chris alluded to this just a little bit before when he was just kindly introducing me. And it would be this. If you ask me, what makes you different? How do you view marketing? It would be this. That marketing isn't about closing a sale, but it's about opening a relationship. We heard it this morning. Content marketing is really the only kind of marketing that's left. Any mature business owner, any mature marketer already knows this. Even what Matthew was just talking about a few minutes ago, writing an email that evokes emotion and attaches us to somebody. It's opening a relationship. How many caught the fact that Todd had Matthew Kimberly and then Michael Kim speak right back to back? Genius. There's something, I can hear him laughing in the background. All right? So marketing isn't about closing a sale. It's about opening a relationship. And all of us who have ever been in any kind of relationship, we know this. For any relationship to grow and thrive, you got to talk, right? You got to talk. Communication. So I love that I'm following what Matthew was sharing because he's telling you to actually email your list. You got to talk to people. You got to talk well. You got to speak well. You got to communicate well. Now, I know in my industry here, there are a lot of products out there now. Swipe files. Download this swipe file. Download the epic funnel that will make you millions of dollars, right? And a lot of us, we've become sick of them, yes? Yes? And we tend to think, well, this doesn't work because everyone's going to sound the same. Who's ever thought that? Y'all start to sound the same. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm just going to bust that myth. Actually, swipe copy does not make everyone sound the same. That is a myth. It's a myth that swipe copy makes everyone sound the same. The reality of swipe copy, written by copywriters like me and many other people who are much better than I am, the reality is that 90% of what works for you or works for others will work for you. But it's this that's the difference. It's the remaining 10%. It's the remaining 10%. And this is what I call, even though we're in sunny San Diego, special snowflake copy. Look at your neighbor and say, you are a special snowflake. All right? You're a special snowflake. Okay? That is what sets you apart. And we're going to dig into this a little bit today. So you probably are wondering, okay, I buy a bunch of swipe files from some great copywriter or some lead magnet that I see online, and I incorporate this. How do I incorporate it? How do I differentiate myself, my business, my brand in copywriting? Okay, the first is actually context. It's context. And I'm going to share with you something here that I've coined the PB3. This is the personal brand 3. And these are 3 questions that we're actually going to work through this afternoon. The first question is, what pisses you off? And I'm using that question on purpose because I actually want to get to the heart of your emotion. What pisses you off? The second is what breaks your heart? The second is what breaks your heart? And the third question is what is the big problem you're trying to solve? And when you answer these questions, you will quickly find in the middle, where all 3 intersect, that is your brand messaging. It's just the PB3 framework, the personal brand 3. Every brand I've worked with, whether they're just starting out or making 8 or 9 figures a year, I've walked them through this. See, a lot of people will hire me to help them with their marketing because they'll think marketing leads to money. Right? We've all played that game, right? Better marketing means more money. But what most people miss is that there's another word that precedes these 2 words. And it also starts with an M, because I'm an alliteration guy. And that word is movement. They are not aware of what kind of movement they're trying to start. It would be a disservice for me to call any religious or political figure in history a marketer. But how many of you know they use marketing? Martin Luther King probably had good marketers on his team, yeah? Right? But it would be a disservice to call him a marketer. He was a leader of a movement. Jesus Christ, Buddha, you name it, any political religious figure, even brands have now become movement makers. Anyone wearing Tom's shoes? Right? Uber, disruptive brands, because they want to launch a movement. So we're going to dig into the PB3 a little bit today, but I want to give you a few more quick tips, and then I'm going to tell you about 5 types, just 5 types of personal brand voices that are out there so that you can actually see where your brand fits in. Now, another way that you can differentiate yourself in your copy is through catchphrases. Now, we're going to play a little game here. How many know who this is? Yeah, Marie Forleo. What's her catchphrase? Do you hear this? Do you hear? I mean, right here, this whole section of the room knows. Everything is figure-outable. This is Tony Robbins. What's his catchphrase? Come on, what's he do every time? I. Say I. Has anyone been to one of his events? Say I. He says like that, right? This is Marie Kondo. Who knows Marie Kondo is? What's her catchphrase? Does it spark joy? I was going to ask her out, but turns out she's married. Spark joy. It's the Asian thing, I guess. I don't know. All right? Who's this? Gary Vaynerchuk. What's his catchphrase? Every profanity in the English language is his catchphrase, right? So we see here, even in a few examples, that people actually have a verbal identity, and so do you if you're intentional about it. This is the one area of branding where people are not intentional in their verbal identity. So we're going to talk about catchphrases as well. Another way is pace. Do you talk fast or slow? How many fast talkers do we have in the room? All right? Okay, good. Please never ever, all you fast talkers, never ever write anything that remotely resembles this. This I call the Great Wall of Text. This is a real email somebody sent me. Okay, I have shrunk it down, and it's not even the entire email. Oh my gosh, I just deleted it. It's just too much, right? I've turned it. This is the only time I've read it because it's actually big enough, this screen, for me to read it. Now, how do you reflect the fact that you are a fast talker in your copywriting? You do what Derek Halpern does. You use a lot of line breaks. Read this really quickly. Do you see how quickly your eye scans? What that does psychologically, listen, what it does psychologically is it makes the person who's reading this feel like you are speaking to them or writing to them really quickly. Now, I'm not going to name names of clients that I've worked with, but some of them are incredibly fast talkers. Others are very measured. And their copy, not just the way it reads, but even the way it looks, has to reflect their voice. So pace, all you fast talkers, just want you to use a lot of single line sentences, line breaks. You slower talkers, you're going to maybe put 2 to 3 sentences in a paragraph. But no one should be writing the Great Wall of Text. All right? Nobody. Never. Never. Okay? All right. Another way, and this is, we kind of take this for granted, but this is a very, very simple way to differentiate yourself in your copy. Emphasis. So, these are the same words with different emphasis or emphases that mean very different things. You went with him, right? You're at a party, talking to your friend, your girlfriend, whoever. You went with him? You went with him? I guys know that's different, right? You haven't talked with your daughter. You're like, you went with him? You went with him? You went with him? And of course, if they're just making boneheaded decisions, you went with him? All right, that's how you talk to your daughters, right? So emphasis, just capitalizing a different word in the copy can make a big difference. Now, I want to get into a little bit further with in terms of how to incorporate all this into your verbal identity. And what I've done is I've taken a screenshot of actually Amazon's brand guidelines. Check this out. We're all aware about the visual identity of a brand, right? The colors, and we have all these iterations of the logo here that are not allowed to be used. If you are an Amazon seller and you break these rules, they will shut you down. They're very, very intentional. So we're all aware of this as the visual identity of a brand. But if you look here, these are the rest of the brand usage guidelines. You can pull this right off online. You can get this right off the internet. Just Google Amazon brand guidelines. And I want to draw your attention to this part, which says call to action and messaging. These guys actually have verbal brand guidelines. And here's what they are. They actually determine how you can make a call to action. I'm going to stay out of the way here so you guys can see this. If you run an Amazon store, they have recommended CTAs. Shop now at Amazon.com, shop now, pre-order now, clip the coupon, add to cart, learn more, see more, watch now, expand, add, or close. You can't write other calls to action. They have very clear brand guidelines. For how many of you is this kind of eye-opening? Did you ever realize these brands actually are this tight? So now when they hire copywriters, they know what they're allowed to say or what they're not allowed to say. Most of us don't realize this, so we hire copywriters to hopefully capture our voice. Now, I will say this, as a copywriter, that's kind of hard first if you never say anything. You got to say something. A lot of the people that I've worked with, they've said a lot already. So what I'll do is I'll read their books, I'll listen to their talks. I'm not going to name this author. He's written about 7, 8 books. His most recent was a New York Times best-selling book. And this guy never met a comma he liked. He just did not use commas or semicolons. He didn't even realize that. But I did, because I was reading his stuff. And that became part of his verbal brand guidelines, okay? So These are just very basic things. Emphasis, pace, catchphrases, and so forth. But now I want to talk to you about voice. And so here are just 5 of the personal brand voices out there. There are more, so if you don't see yourself in these, that's okay. But I think these are going to be pretty easy to understand. Okay, so just 5 of the personal brand voices out there. Number 1 is the academic. Number 2 is the professional. Number 3 is the emoji. Okay, I think you guys already kind of know where that one's going. The emoji. You got the snark. For those of you who don't know what snark means, it just means wise ass. All right, it's the sarcastic wise ass snark. All right, it's a smart aleck. And you have, of course, number 5, the motor mouth. All right, you got the motor mouth. And these are just 5 of the voices. So when I work with a client or when I'm looking at their copy, I actually, in my head, just try to figure out where they most fall within these categories. All right, so let's talk about the academic real quick. I'm going to give you an example. Now, I don't know if you can actually read this. All right, so I'm just going to read a couple of lines. Suppose that while leafing through the newspaper, you notice an ad for volunteers to take part in a study of memory being done in the psychology department of a nearby university. Let's suppose further that, comma, finding the, okay, who's asleep already? You're already asleep, right? You know who this is? This is actually Dr. Robert Cialdini, and this is taken from his book, Influence, one of the most pivotal, influential books of our generation when it comes to marketing. But he is a professor, so he writes like this. How many have read this book? How many found it really hard to read? Yeah, it's like dense. So, you know, what we do is we buy the book, and then we look for blog posts of people who have summarized the 6 principles of influence, and we're like, okay, that's a lot better. But that's his voice. That's his brand. He's an academic, and his books are like this thick, right? They're sausage finger thick, okay, his books, okay? Then, of course, you have the professional, all right? So let's talk about the professional real quick. Ensure your job grows with you. For nearly 20 years, Richard worked as a high-powered reporter, first covering the oil industry, then electricity, deregulation, so on and so forth. And there's much more of a narrative voice to this, okay? There's much more narrative voice. And this is Dory Clark, author of the book Reinventing You. She's a professional. She teaches at business school, right? Schools around the country, at Harvard, Duke also, I believe. We had the pleasure of meeting some time ago. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady, very bright. Not an academic voice, though, even though she teaches in higher ed. She's also a professional speaker, right? Other professional, any business author you can really think of would fall into this category for the most part. John Maxwell, Michael Hyatt, a bunch of these kind of folks, right? Okay, let's talk now about the emoji, all right? And we're gonna have a little fun with this one, all right? Okay, check this out here. I've put this in. Can y'all read this? It was crazy going up 64, all caps, flights of stairs. Sweaty emoji, is that what you call that? All right. 3 dots. I'm joking, of course. Why on earth would I take 64 flights of stairs when I can just hop on the elevator? Emoji. Okay. On and on it goes. Honestly, this kind of summarizes everything I teach. Apparently, that's a teacher emoji. You'll never teleport to your dreams, goals, or aspirations. You have to climb past every floor of this emoji. All right. The one. All right. Let's just have a little fun. Is this a guy or a girl? How many say girl? How many say this is a lady? How many say this is a dude? Okay, this is actually my buddy Travis Chappell. All right, it's a dude. Okay, he writes in the emoji voice. Okay, he's got a great podcast, Build Your Network. Okay, big shout out to Travis. This is how he writes. This is his voice. This is his voice. So it is not gender specific. All right, ladies. I'm not like you're the emoji writers only. Okay, I'm giving you a good example of one. But of course, it's happening, friends. I am beyond excited to be teaching live master classes next week. Hurrah! Not 1 hearts, but 2. Okay? This is one smiley love face with 3 hearts. Never, when the first time I saw that emoji, I thought it was pimples. It was weird. Okay? I cannot wait to share it with you, Zen emoji. And of course, some of you may know her. This is Amy Porterfield. This is her brand. She's got a voice. She's got a verbal identity. Okay? The snark. This is fun. All right, the snark. This is the wise ass. Okay? Do not do this, all caps, 49,514 person partnership mistake. Okay? I want to draw your attention to the bottom here. The bad news. I am Indian. I'm Indian, so getting an A is not enough. I need the A plus, or in this case, what will those 49,514 people actually do? Do they actually buy? This is look at the top, the second line. We don't run contests anymore. It's a funny story, funny like a clown crying, AKA sad and expensive. I mean, that is a funny that's a very sarcastic voice. Anyone know who this is? It's from me. What was the giveaway? The Indian part? Man, all right. We can have a little fun here. It's all right. Yeah, I'm kind of Asian. Okay, you can say that. All right. This is from Meet Seti. Give you another example. Okay, another example. Right. I had to cross out so much stuff on this dude. Okay. So these are the email subject lines of this guy's email campaigns. Copywriting boob jobs, spelled B-E-W-B, so he doesn't trigger the like the spam filters with all this sort of stuff. I swear on a stack of Bibles, I've never done crack. Look at the fifth one down. This is like kind of misogynistic, huh? I can't tell if she's lazy, illiterate, or just batty. But dude, what? How you gonna write something look at the bottom one. Was Gene Schwartz a sex fanatic? And he spells sex, S-E-C-K-S. Because again, he doesn't want to trigger the spam. Anyone know who this is? No idea, okay? This is actually what happened to my thing? It's Ben Settle, and I guess we can't show his face. I don't know why I didn't. Okay, Ben Settle is a copywriter, email copywriter. He publishes a newsletter every month called the Email Players, and he's known for his edgy, borderline voice. Okay, he's a snark. Okay. All right, let's go to the last one, the motor mouth. This one's easy. The motor mouth. This is Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, that's his Instagram feed. His Instagram feed looks loud. All right, that's his voice. Grant Cardone. This is just loud. I mean, I feel like I'm looking at like a Circuit City circular. You know, back in the day, like on Saturdays when they'd send you those mailers. That's just from their Instagram feeds. We don't need to read anything. It's just their voice is just so loud. He's in front of microphones, just loud text everywhere. Okay, so these are examples. I've just given you 5 examples of personal brand voices. The academic, the professional, the emoji, the snark, the motor mouth. You know, there are other niches or voices like the wellness space where people just say, wow, it just feels so much power. Thank you, universe. And like a blend of all this stuff. Was this helpful for you guys to actually see? Right? Actually see that people that we follow, people who we respect, have a verbal identity. Now, the good news is that we can all establish our own verbal identity. So how do we get started writing copy in our own voice? How do we do this? The first thing I'm going to have you do today is answer the PB3 questions I gave you earlier. We're going to do this in a minute, okay? And then I'm going to show you what you're going to do when you go home. So this is the first thing that we're going to do today. The second thing you're going to do, and this is very, very important, you're going to pick the medium that you write for most frequently. Not the most for, but the most frequently. Who uses Instagram every day? You write on there more than anything else, okay? Some of you. Who uses email? You write email every day, right? Marketing copy, okay? Most of you are probably not writing sales pages every day. Something's wrong. All right, you don't want to be doing that, okay? But whether it's a certain social media channel, or it's email, or it's blog posts, whatever marketing channel that you are writing for the most frequently, not the longest, the most frequently, you're going to pick that medium, and number 3, you're going to determine the voice for that medium. And this is sort of like when you tell a kid, you ask your children to use the inside voice versus the outside voice. Some of you are very professional in your blog posts. Listen carefully. I don't want to put all this pressure on you. You're very professional in your blog posts, but you sound too professional on Instagram stories. It's not the right medium. Yeah? Aha? You get it? There's that kind of an aha? So you might go a little bit more with the emoji or the snark depending on the medium. If you write a 3-paragraph essay on Instagram stories, no one's going to read it. First of all, most people don't even know how to pause the Instagram story to begin with. So keep the text short. That is the medium, right? And it'll determine your voice. Now, if Todd put emojis in his book, I would be concerned. I'd be like, dude, I know you're a really good writer and you're a really great thought leader, but I don't think you should put emojis in your actual book. But he'll use them on Instagram, or he'll use them on different mediums, okay? So you determine your voice for that medium. It's like the inside voice versus the outside voice. All right, let's tie all this together. The 3 areas you must absolutely nail it. The 3 areas, you got to nail these, right? Everything else, the other 90% of the copy, you don't need to hire me to write a webinar invitation. It doesn't matter that much, okay? All right? But the other areas where you absolutely need to nail it, you need to nail it. Your signature story, this is your personal story, and we're going to delve into this with the PB3. Your signature sound bites, this is what I was calling catchphrases earlier. Everything's figure-outable. I, spark joy, F-bomb, 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 all right? Your sound bites, you got to get those down. And then, of course, your signature sales copy. Right? Those are the 3 areas you have to nail it. You and your copywriter, you and your marketing team have to get together and at least nail it with those 3 things. Okay? You nail it here, you have a very, very clear brand message. So we've got a few minutes, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down what pisses you off, what breaks your heart, and what's the big problem you're trying to solve in your business. Now, as some context, to give you an on-ramp, let me just share a little bit of my story, okay? And this will help you understand, right? Years ago, I worked as a CMO for a company just outside the New York City area. And it harkens back to Thanksgiving 2013. It's the first time that my mother and sister were actually at my house together for Thanksgiving. And the next day, I had to go to work on Black Friday. I had to go to work. And the thing is, on Thursday night, Thanksgiving evening, I stayed up with my mom. She's Korean, so she drinks really well. That's one and the same, okay, as my friends will know, all right? And we stayed up all night, like till 2 in the morning, just doing shots of soju, which is like Korean sake type stuff, okay? And she's just telling me all these great stories about my life, and then I had to go to bed so I could go to work in the morning. And I left her and my sister at my house, and that really pissed me off. That was like the start of me saying, I don't want this life anymore. I don't want someone to tell me when I can work, when I can't work, how much I can make, and for goodness sake, why I can't spend the day with my mom and sister. That ticked me off. And what broke my heart was that as I would drive to work, I was like so sad. I was like depressed. I was like, I don't want to do this. And then I saw other people who were just like me going to do a job that they hated. They looked like the Walking Dead, right? They're standing outside at the bus stop. And a lot of these folks were probably very, very, very brilliant people. We're just kind of held down by the man, right? Held down by corporate America. So the big problem I'm trying to solve is to help them start a personal brand so that they can work for themselves and start a business. Now you'll notice I did not say what pisses me off, bad copywriting. I didn't say I wake up and you know what breaks my heart, ugly websites. No. So even though I market, my core message is to help people build a brand, to build businesses that they actually love working in, that they actually just wake up every day charged and excited about. Do you see how the narrative fits now? Is that better than, I just want to help you 10x the return on your email funnel? This is a story. I love what Matthew said about emotion, right? I love this. So, real quick, I want you to write down what pisses you off, what breaks your heart, what's the big problem you want to solve. For some of you, you're going to need to work backwards. Write down what's the big problem you solve in your business. Many of us already have very mature businesses, and you work backwards. Why did you start a virtual assistant staffing company? Why did Todd start PerformanceCon? What you've heard over and over and over again today were businesses rooted in story, rooted in these 3 questions. So take 30 seconds, just jot down whatever's out there, okay? And we'll talk this through, okay? Just jot down whatever comes up. Now, don't worry if you can't get all your thoughts out, because we have 30 minutes allocated for a mastermind with Matthew and myself, so we're going to be able to talk some of this through. But this is a great starting point. And I want to remind you, if you take this approach that marketing isn't about closing a sale, it's about opening a relationship, you will get much more comfortable sharing what's on the inside that's drawn out by those questions. And you will have a brand that is absolutely copy-proof. Thank you guys so much for your time. If any of these slides will be helpful to you, you can just download them right off here. It's a really easy URL. You can just download the slides, okay? And if you want to stay in touch on social media, there it is. So thank you guys so much for your time. I hope this was helpful. And